Hello everyone, at 1995 here in the video games and fanfiction plot with a new story for you all. It is called His Queen. If you guys don't know, it's another Transformers fanfiction, and I do hope you enjoy this story. And remember, I do not own the Transformers Prime series or this story. I give full credit to its author Syzzy WinterFalls 13 on Quotev. Now on to the story. Somebody make a move. Optimus. The small female in front of him roared, furious about what he just told her. You have 5 seconds to explain. Molly clenched her fists, baring her wolf-like fangs. Hands crawled up to her ear, and started scratching. The frustrated queen squinted her eyes. Maiko, how many times do I have to say this? Molly demanded, swatting her hands at the grinning teen. I'm not a dog. Maiko rolled her eyes, pulling back her hand. Well, you are a wolf. Molly sighed, holding her face in her palm. Dogs are wolves, but wolves are not dogs. I keep telling you this. And anyways, I was a werewolf. The guitarist shrugged her shoulders, giggling. Same difference. The brunette huffed, turning her head towards her guardian. As I was saying, why the hell didn't you tell me last night? She shouted, accidentally throwing her voice so that it would hit all the walls and bounce off. The mesh surround her held their audio receptors as the echoes rang in their heads. Molly, we did not realize the Decepticons were building a space bridge till after you left. Optimus confessed, wincing as the sound faded out. The teen narrowed her eyes, and sighed. Sorry, Optimus. I'm just stressed, that's all. Molly said, rubbing her forehead. Optimus looked at his charge in worry, half expecting her to break down. Molly shook her head, getting herself back to the present. Why would they need a space bridge? She asked, confused. Ratchet turned his head from the computer. Optimus, I've pinpointed the location of Megatron's space bridge, high in Earth's orbit. Whoa, wait. Orbit? Why did I send Nova off so soon? Molly mentally face-bombed. Out of our reach. Optimus stated, walking to where the others were standing. Okay. So you guys don't fly. Maiko said, excluding Molly from the statement, since she can fly. But can't you just ground bridge there? Molly shook her head, smiling at how utterly stupid her best friend can be. Maiko, it's called a ground bridge for a reason. She yelled down, leaning on her hand. The ground bridge has limited range. Stretched all the way into orbit, its vortex could snap and scatter us to the stars. Molly nodded, agreeing. You see, Maiko. Their current ground bridge isn't the same as a space bridge. Even though they both travel at light speed, creating a hole in the space-time continuum, they wouldn't be able to reach that far with our current portal because of the general relativity and vacuum of space creating tension on both ends, and can otherwise cause a black hole, sending them in different zones, different timelines, or even different universes. The Autobots looked at her strangely. What? I watch Doctor Who. Molly replied, shrugging her shoulders. And Big Bang Theory. Maiko coughed, receiving a glare from the Queen. Since Megatron is likely already in transit, I'm afraid we must take that risk. Reaching the space bridge first is our only means of stopping him. Optimus said, turning towards the ground bridge. Wait, Maiko said, and looked to Molly. Molly, I remember you saying something about if you travel faster than the speed of light, and you were going at an angle of something degrees, you would be able to teleport. Am I correct? Molly looked at Maiko in shock. I didn't think you would remember that. And yes, it is possible. Dragons and avians have been using that technique to travel only for emergencies. Molly said, nodding. But Maiko, so far, nobody has done it with a passenger. You would have to be super close to the one teleporting. And I now realize where you are going with this, and the answer is no. Molly finally answered, and Maiko groaned. A beep comes from the drive-in, and RC drove in, Jack along with her. Hey! Guess who's back? Jack greeted, taking off his helmet. Molly perked up, looking at the teenager. Seems you took the warning. She laughed, and looked to Optimus, waiting for ... well, anything. Autobots, prepare for departure. Optimus ordered. Where to? RC asked, standing beside Jack. RC asked where Optimus was referring to. I smirked, enjoying that Jack was here. RC was confused, and Maiko had, finally, stopped petting me. If I had a nickel. Maiko walked up from behind Bulkhead's foot, where she was throwing pebbles at me. The final frontier. Wouldn't that be the bottom of the ocean? Humans haven't been there. Heck, I don't think any land-dwelling animalians have been there. Why space? Jack asked, stuttering. I thought they didn't have any way to get there? I sighed, looking down. They don't. What they are doing will be incredibly risky. It has the same probability of success as the survival rate of lung cancer. I replied, waving my hand dramatically. As Ratchet turned the ground bridge on, I hesitated. Molly? Will you be joining us? Optimus asked, turning my way. I thought for a second. If the transport is successful, I will be able to kick some ass today. If not, I could end up in the astral plane. Sure. I sighed, and jumped down. I better not die. Being as it is space, the only form I can take without dying in the airless vacuum is spacing. I clarified, and walked forward, springing up to give me space below me to shift. My heart sped up, and my skin started to burn. Spacing shift is harder than others, given their odd anatomy. My eyes dried from the heat radiating from me. My lungs gasped for air, and my throat burned with exhaustion. But in all fairness, this form is badass. The star imitations swirled on my scales, and the wings faded out into black at the ends. The humans stared at my shifting scales, and I do enjoy the attention. My form did attract a lot of attention before from suitors. I'm ready, Optimus. The Autobots looked at me in awe, staring before heading towards the ground bridge. Optimus, if you leave me stranded on a planet teeming with humans and other odd creatures, I will never forgive you. Ratchet warned, making me snort. Until we meet again, old friend. Optimus replied, and I could see a glimpse of a smile appear on his face, before he put his battle mask on. Autobots, roll out. Doesn't that get annoying? I shake my head, and bound off after the speeding Autobots, now in vehicle form. It doesn't take long till the other side of the ground bridge opens up, and I can feel the pull of the planet enforce its weight on me. My wings open, propelling me through the lack of gravity. My ribs squeeze onto my adapted lungs, which a spacing only uses for keeping balance. Autobots, transform and gravitize. Optimus commands, transforming. Seriously. Weirdest things I've ever heard. I guide my wings towards the gigantic piece of metal, which, I swear on my life, wasn't there before. When Optimus's foot got within range, a small jolt of electricity connected the surface and hisped. As the others landed on the space bridge, Bulkhead not so gracefully, I did a quick spherical scan, to see if we were alone. Not a glimpse. My claws gripped the smooth surface, and the magnetic sensors in my pads were able to keep me from drifting. Zero gravity is fun. I grinned, and started to ruffle my wings in delight. Don't look down. Or up. Or left. Bulkhead is a skirmish fellow, isn't he? I smirked, and felt a pulse from my electroreceptors, and turned around. I don't understand how I can hear them talk, but not be able to hear the humming that vibrated through the dark matter. OSHT. My mouth was left ajar, as the huge ship glided towards us. It stopped in front of the space bridge, and my jaw clenched. So, Megatron is packing enough dark energon to raise Cybertron's dead? RC looked to Optimus, and my gut started to twist. A little late there, how gut feeling? I stepped forwards, ready to blast this thing out of the solar system. And since we don't possess ready means of disabling the space bridge, Optimus pulled out his blasters, nothing gets in or out. I chuckled darkly, spreading my wings. You got it, boss. My shoulders hunched, and the warship stood still. Well, what are they waiting for? I looked at the small FEM, and I focused on the electric currents. They are sending out frequencies. I looked around, picking up the slightest pings of sound. It appears the Decepticons have sustained serious damage to their interstellar navigation system. Optimus finished, understanding my statement. My scales tingled, shifting the galactic mimicry on my coloring. Huh, that's my handiwork. Bulkhead remarked. Good job, Bulk. We might have a chance after all. I smirked, eyes looking towards the large ship. Optimus nodded, glancing towards me for a second. Without the dish, Megatron will be unable to aim the space bridge at Cybertron. If Megatron went through the trouble rendezvousing with his space bridge, he must have an alternate targeting system. A remote one. I looked towards Earth, its continents visible through the clouds. If they don't have their disk, and they need a fairly large one for this machine, where would they get it unless? Goddamn it, Texas. Admin, I love you, Texas, I really do. I could hear Ratchet through the comlink being a little grouch. His words were jumbled, and my hearing couldn't pick it up. Raphael's voice came clearly though. And, we were on the same page. Good thinking, Raph. Optimus spoke through the comm. Ratchet, have Agent Fowler alert the array staff to the security hazard. My face deadpanned, seriously? Fowler can't even walk 5 feet without tripping over his own shoes. I rolled my eyes, my tail curling around my feet. If I knew Raphael, he could get past the firewall, but not from his laptop. Raph is going to need to be on the base. From there, he could connect to the lock system. I said, turning my head. The risk is too great. The Decepticons will be there, perhaps even on site. Optimus demurred. I growled, baring my teeth. Optimus, we may have no choice. I could hear the teenagers arguing with Prime. To be honest, it made me proud. Optimus looked conflicted, but he finally answered. Raph? I knew Raph said yes, and I smiled. But that happiness was short-lived. Jets started to come out of the ship, and were heading towards us. Well, how about that? I huffed, squinting my eyes. Here comes the welcoming committee. Note or bulkhead. I spread my legs apart, balancing my weight. Flashes of red came from the Decepticons, and the blasts landed around us. The Autobots fired back, with me just standing there. What would happen if I breathed fire in space? Or do space wings breathe out helium and hydrogen? I questioned, looking around to the others. Time to test that theory out. I snickered, and breathed in. My throat burned, my chest scales glowing bright blue, and what came out surprised me. My fangs flipped out, and a dark flame erupted from the back of my throat. The scorching fire blasted some of the Vehicons while they were transforming. I probably looked like a giddy second grader that finally won at you-know. I looked over to Optimus, who just threw a Vehicon at another. This is getting more and more interesting each day. I thought, looking back to the others. They all seem preoccupied with the cons, but none seem to go for me. Let me change that. I smiled wickedly, and snapped my wings open. Pushing off of the metal, I attacked the approaching drones. Using my talons, I scratched one's head, and kicked it backwards. HMPH. I flew back to the team, landing my their side. Optimus, this was not my plans for this Sunday. I stammered, out of breath from the fire. The space bridge started to shake, turning around. I wobbled on my feet, gripping the ground with my talons. Whoa! I am not so balanced in space, am I? What just happened? RC asked frantically. The Decepticons are locking onto Cybertron. Optimus answered. Great. I started, when the machine directed itself away. Seriously? I flew up this time, avoiding a collision with the ungraceful ballerina called Bulkhead. That's my boy. I shouted happily, doing flips. Bumblebee buzzed, pumping his fists in the air. Indeed, Bumblebee. Optimus agreed, this can only be Raph's doing. I grinned victoriously, angling my wings downward. I hope this works. My gut churned, and my ruff flared. Well, that can't be good. My foot raised, and I could feel the vibrations coming from Earth. Optimus, something is wrong. I claimed, looking around, very wrong. After those words, my eyes went blind, as a swirling light spread from the center of the space bridge. A blast came from the portal, knocking me off my feet. Gah! My body was sore, and as I struggled to get up, I could hear my scales scrape against each other. I looked up, and saw the Decepticon leader on top of the ship, carrying a huge cluster of dark energon. I gasped in horror, images of my suffering kingdom flashed in my eyes, as he launched it into the space bridge. Optimus ran over, and helped me to my feet. I heard him ask if I was alright, but I stared in disbelief at the swirling portal. No. I whispered, my body trembling. My heart felt like it was going to tear itself out of my chest, while my head was drowning in the screams of my own thoughts. So, how do we beat a whole planet of the undead? Bulkhead asked. I shook my head, wanting to scream and tear the beating spark out of Megatron's chest. Optimus, I'm registering a rapidly expanding mass in their space bridge vortex, one with a peculiar energy signature. I could hear the comlink conversation, but I didn't comment. Dark energon. Ratchet, we must destroy the space bridge. I turned to look at my guardian, and I could feel rage bubbling from my mind's self-torture. There is enough live energon coursing through it to achieve detonation, but we lack the firepower to ignite it. What about me? Wait a second, what about me? My eyes widened, and I turned towards the ship. If I could achieve high levels of radiation, high enough that it would be seen through the atmosphere, and combined it with a spacing fire, I could be able to blow up the space bridge. My soul felt like it was on fire, and my pupils narrowed with rage. Optimus, I broke in as he was commanding the Autobots. I have enough radiation built up to make the bridge explode. Combining it with the spacing fire would rise the success rate. Optimus stared at me, surprised at my declaration. Molly, it's too much of a risk for you to take. He retorted, his voice intoned with slight edge. Optimus, I may be only 17, but I have more experience in war, battles, and attacks than I would like to admit. Plus it is lower a risk than Ratchet's plan. I reassured harshly, raising my neck. He hesitated, and his optics were the only giveaway that he didn't want me to do this. But as he finally answered, I could hear the reluctance in his tone, only as a last resort. I nodded, and saw Megatron soaring over. I took a fighting stance, and stood by Prime's side as Megatron landed in front of us. Your fellow Autobots are wise, Optimus. They know when to retreat. A growl crawled up my throat as he spoke, and my lips pulled back into a snarl. I hold no illusions about engaging your army, Megatron. Optimus spoke, looking down, but I might derail its objective, by removing its head. His servo transformed into a blade, and I bared my teeth. Megatron cackled, which sent shivers down my spine. Highly unlikely, Optimus, as I am infused with their very might. And if Her Highness will be engaging, I would gladly show her to her place. That one made me enraged, as my talons started to freeze over. One shall stand. Optimus glared, putting up in front of me. One shall fall. The portal crackled with electricity, as Megatron pulled out his own blade. I flew up, dodging the attack as Optimus and Megatron clashed. I watched as they slashed at each other, and dove down, clawing at Megatron. The fight got only more intense, and I looked up to see a swarm. They can't get through. Not now. My body was thrown to the ground, and my scales scraped the metal. Ouch! I grabbed the plating, and pulled myself up. Optimus's detached blade flew towards me, making me jump away. I screeched Optimus's name, as Megatron punched him. Optimus was thrown into the air, and was grabbed by his foot, pulled back down. Megatron slammed him on the ground, and threw him closer to the portal. My mind, focused for once in the madness, told me to attack. And I was about to do so. I snuck behind him, as he spoke. Ah, misdirection, Optimus. You would have made a fine Decepticon. He raised his blade, and I threw myself onto his back. Clawing deep wounds. Optimus blocked the blade that was about to hit him, and in my relief, I chose my side. I pushed upwards, and watched my guardian blast Megatron backwards. My snout twitched, vibrations pulsing in my ears. Well, what did you know? They did it. I soared down, Meeting up with Optimus. Come on. We have to hurry before this joint blows up like a nuke. I said, before the metal started to split apart. Optimus ran away, and I jumped, snapping my wings open. Optimus, get on! I shouted, flying closer. My wings tilted towards him. He was about to jump, but a large scrap divided us. Optimus! I swerved, trying to avoid the rising metal. Gah! I gasped, a piece of metal impaled in my chest. I can't get it out now, I'll have to wait. I saw the ground bridge light up, and I dove towards it. My chest begging for release. My back arched, my lungs grew heavy. Not now. Please, not now. I begged, and started to go limp. My body fell through the ground bridge, flecks of liquid metal suspended in zero gravity floating from my eyes, and it closed behind me. The colors swirled around me, and I struggled to stay awake. Fowler, Myco, Jack, and Raph leaned over the railing. Do you think they're Raph asked, looking over to Ratchet. He looked at his arm, scanner popped open 4 life signals. One very faint. Myco looked to Ratchet, eyes wide. What about Molly? Ratchet looked back at his scanner, her energy signature is showing. He observed, and turned towards the ground bridge. Optimus stepped out, stopping at the front. He turned, waiting for Molly to come flying behind him. But she didn't. Instead, Bulkhead came out. Myco rushed down, Bulkhead. She ran to him, hugging his finger. Optimus watched, and was starting to grow worried. Did Molly make it through? He looked to Ratchet, who nodded, confirming she got through. The other humans rushed down, looking at the ground bridge. Bumblebee ran in, RC in his arms. Jack ran up to her, and Optimus jerked towards the ground bridge, and ran in. Optimus! Ratchet called out, as Optimus went into the vortex. And there she was, motionless, a metal stake lodged in her chest. His optics widened, stopping in his tracks. Optimus! What in Primus's sake are you doing? Ratchet yelled through the comlink. Molly is unconscious and has injuries. She wouldn't have made it through. Optimus replied, and ran to her side. Hesitant to pick her up, he knelt down. His servos ran over the wound, that bled metal. She didn't have these before. He thought, and lifted her up into his arms. He ran back to base, carrying the dragon through the portal. Hang on, Molly. You'll be alright. He halted once he got into the room, and rushed to put Molly on the med table. Ratchet, we need medical assistance. Optimus yelled, and stepped back. Ratchet rushed over, and Myco ran up to where she could get a better view. What happened? She shouted, tears starting to pour down her face. It seems like when the space bridge was coming apart, she was impaled with a shard of metal. Ratchet said, and taking a scan. Thankfully it didn't hit any major organs. But it is lodged deep inside the neck muscle. Ratchet confirmed. Optimus looked over to Ratchet, and reached out to the metal stake lodged in her chest. Optimus, we can't just rip it out of her chest. If we did that, she would bleed to death, Ratchet said, blocking Optimus from the wound. Optimus hesitated, and pulled his arm back. We have to remove the piece surgically, or it would tear a large hole in her chest. Ratchet stated, and walked to his equipment. I don't know anything about dragon anatomy, but I do know that the metal is blocking her from breathing. The thing is, I don't have anything that would numb the pain. Myco sniffled, and squared her shoulders. Come on, Bulkhead. Bulkhead looked up, puzzled. Where to? Myco walked towards him. Molly's house. She should have something that would keep the pain down. Ratchet shook his head, too time costing. The metal needs to be taken out now. Then what do we do? Jack asked, looking down at the dragon. First, we must secure the metal in place. If it moves, it could cause more damage. He motioned Optimus closer. Optimus, I need you to keep the stake still. I'm going to do an X-ray. Optimus nodded, and moved closer to Molly. Grasping the shard, he held it in place as Ratchet took the X-ray. It is puncturing the trachea at a 76 degrees angle. Pulling it out will be quite a struggle. He walked over to the table, and started to split some of the chest scales apart. If we pull it out in a straight and upward motion, we could avoid a surgical procedure, he stated, and rested his hand on the splinter. When I say 3, we pull in one swift motion, Ratchet ordered. Optimus nodded, and the humans were nervous wrecks. 1, 2, 3. Optimus pulled the shard out of Molly's chest. She gasped awake, clutching the scales. Ouch! She groaned, and lifted the scales to see the wound already healing. Well then, that was fun, she said sarcastically, and rolled over. I think this was the most action I have had in years, Molly said, looking up. We won, right? Molly asked, looking to Optimus. He looked over her in amusement. We did successfully detonate the space bridge. The girl grinned, and slowly got up. And Megatron? Ratchet asked, looking towards the Prime. Not even he could survive Ground Zero. Molly smiled, and breathed in deeply. Prime. Optimus turned, looking at the departing agent. I didn't get to thank Q-bots for the save, Fowler said, opening the elevator. I owe you one. We all do. He left the base, and Bumblebee set RC down. RC smiled at Jack, who smiled back. Admin the Jack that smiles back. So is this the part where you say goodbye and tell us we need to forget we ever saw you? Myco asked Optimus. Molly looked to her guardian, and shifted into a human, the skin almost fully healed around the wound. I know I'm not leaving. And if I'm not leaving, they aren't either. She smiled, and walked to Myco. The next day, a large wave of energy spiked through the atmosphere yesterday at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Scientists do not know what caused it, but animalians across the globe have reported a large flash of blue-green light in the sky. Whether it is alien or not, is unknown. Molly scoffed, turning off the animalian news. My people are too smart for their own good. She turned to Optimus. The military already found out about you guys from a certain coyote. Soon the public will know. Optimus looked at his charge, and smiled slightly. I can trust you to not let it out to the humans. Molly grinned, and looked back at her computer, emails piling in. You think you can come to my next meeting? Well, that's the ending of that chapter. I do hope you enjoy this video. If you like to see more, remember to hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and leave a comment down below. Until next time.